Rights to freedom is dead. We're coming to get our check.
All right, I wanted to have this conversation because I made a poll and a lot of people had a lot to say about it. I see you, Hurricane. I see you, Will, 7. I see you all in here. I appreciate you all for being in here. Appreciate you. So check this out. The poll was this girl, this black girl. If you guys haven't seen it, a lot of people voted on it. And a lot of people had stuff to say about it. But there was this poll of this black girl, and she was all like, people say I sound white because I talk a certain way. Brian, I see you, brother. People say I sound white because I talk a certain way and I pronounce my words a certain way, and I speak with, articulation, and I'm elegant when I speak. So people say that sounds white. So I asked the poll if she sounded white.
If I had $1 for every time someone says you talk like a white girl, my podcast would not be called Rich Little Broke Girls. It would be called Rich Little Rich Girls. Where do I even start? Why does she talk like that? You're black, but you don't sound like it. Her oral mechanism is off. Off in relation to what? Your limited idea of blackness? I'm so sorry that you can't comprehend how we all do not sound the same. If speaking the language they taught us in school exactly the way they taught us to speak it in school means that I sound like a white girl, babe, it's not an insult to me. It's an insult to your own intelligence, especially in a time where Google is free and libraries still exist. If I were you, I would go get a library card and I would read something. Since we're now a monolith, tell me how black people sound and I'll do my best.
And a lot of people, it was kind of 50-50 until really the tail end where most people said no. So I'm here to because I have a lot of, people saying stuff to me about it. So I wanted to, get on here for a few minutes, just for a little bit, and talk about it, right? In my personal opinion of that particular video, she did sound white, in my personal opinion. What she sounded like, and when I say white, we have to break this up a little bit. What I mean is she sounded as if she is trying to mimic what she perceives a white girl sounds like, a white girl speaks like. That's what she sounded like to me. And you say you voted yes. Now, the whole thing of, well, when I speak articulate, people, black people say I sound white. Do black people say that? I've heard that. That's not been told to me, but I have heard that. So it's not something I'm unaware of. It's not something that I say is a liar. They're lying. It's not. I've heard that before. A black person has an above average lexicon, not even a vocabulary, especially a vocabulary and lexicon. Then people will say, okay, you sound like a white dude. From what I've seen, in most of those cases, it's been, they've been jokes. In most of those cases, it's been jokes. Let me see. Is the title up here? I don't know if the title is here. Do you guys see a title? See, I'm still getting used to this Instagram stuff. Hold on. I'm still getting used. There is no title. I can't believe it. Okay. No, hold on. Hold on. Okay, this. Now I put a title on before you said you don't see it. Okay, hold on, let me see. I'm just gonna pin that and that's gonna be the title. Okay. I don't know why. Okay, so people coming in, I won't have to constantly say it. So in a lot of those cases, I've seen a lot of those cases, they've been jokes. It's just been people kind of joking around in like a joking family setting. But there are people who feel like, I guess there are a percent, we have to admit that there is a percent of people who feel like if you don't speak in slang or ebonics or whatever, then you're trying not to sound black because black people talk that way. Okay. But in most of the cases when that's being said, it's not being said really in a judgmental sense. It's being said in a very joking sense, to be honest. And when people say, well, black people say I sound white just because I'm speaking articulate, that tends to be a red flag for me for a few reasons. Number one, as black people, especially FBA, we joke a lot. We always joking on each other. We always kind of picking at each other and making little jokes and that stuff is really not meant to be personal. So when a black person is like very sensitive, and I'm not saying all the cases, but when a black person is very sensitive about little jokes that are commonly made in the black community, then I feel like, okay, well, how often are you around black people then? Because this tends to be the way we joke about people, and it's never really taken personal. And I'm not talking about you insulting somebody. I'm not saying that. I'm saying a common joke. Like, oh, you sound white, or you acting white, or something like just, or that's some light skin shit. That's kind of like that's a joke. And if you're around black people and you understand, it shouldn't really be taken that personal. Now, sometimes there is like a little malintent. There's some malice behind the joke, but in most of the cases, in my experience, they're jokes. Now, it gives me the sense that you're not really around black people like that. And then another thing, when folks say that and they say, well, I just speak articulate and you don't like the way I sound. When they say that, 9 times out of 10, it's not because you sound so articulate. It's not because your lexicon or your vocabulary is so advanced and you're so well spoken. It's not because of that. It's not because you're using proper English. It's not because of those things. Most of the time when people say it, if they are saying it seriously, which I would say from what I've seen be like 7 out of 10 times or 8 out of 10 times, it's because you're trying to mimic what you feel like white people speak like. And I'm not talking about pronouncing the language of English properly. You know, pronouncing the words properly, using a vast vocabulary and all that. That's not it. You said, in my experience, white people said that to me. I've barely heard that from other black people. That's very interesting. I mean, and that's the thing, Hurricane. Black people don't really go around saying that. That's another thing. That's not really a thing black people say all the time. Black people really don't make that joke like that. It is a joke. I'm not going to say it don't exist, but it's not a joke that black people be making all the time. Black people don't really be making that joke that often. Now, when they say that, from what I've seen, oftentimes it's a straw man argument. Because oftentimes when they say, oh, you're saying I sound white, you're saying I talk like a white person. No, it's because what you're trying to do is you're trying to mimic how they sound. You're trying to use the pitch that you feel like they use. You're trying to elongate the words that you feel like they elongate. You're trying to use the phrases and the terms that they use. And you're trying to make the way you speak as close to the way white people speak as possible. That's like 8 times out of 10, that's what you're doing. So when black people would say like, okay, black people don't speak that way. And you're like, well, what do you mean black people don't speak this way? I'm just pronouncing my words in a very articulate manner, and you're just jealous of my intellect and my advanced vocabulary. No, nobody's jealous of your intellect and your advanced vocabulary. You're trying to mimic a pitch in a tone, in a cadence, and really like an accent, to be honest, that you feel like white people sound like. So in the video, when I was seeing it, she was sitting up there like, I can't believe that black people think this way about the way I speak. I'm like, that's because black women don't sound that way. And you have black women who are doctors, black women who are teachers, black women who are lawyers, and they don't sound that way. That's not how you sound when you're quote unquote being articulate. Exactly. Those thank you. Those Valley girl accents. And then you says, you talking white people talking points and having a mindset. Exactly. And that's another thing, Derek. A lot of times, when people speak this way, it tends to be indicative of how they view black people and then how they behave around white people. All right. When you see a black person who's just trying their best to not acclimate to white society, I'm going to say try their best to mimic what they feel like white people sound like. Okay. When you see that, and then you see, a lot of times they'll say something like, do we have to always listen to hip hop? You got Justin Bieber or something like that? Something, I don't know. I don't like the N word. I don't really say that. You know what I'm saying? Fried chicken again, man. You don't have any tater tots or anything. Like, when people speak that way, it tends to be 8 times, I'm not going to say all, but like about 8 times out of 10, it tends to be that there is some type of disconnect between that black person in the black community, which is why they try to sound like somebody that they think the white person. They try to mimic what they feel white people sound like, because there's a disconnect between them and the black community. So more than not, they start looking at the black community and black people the same way white people, or they think white people look at black people. It says, right. And they'll refer to white people and they'll always refer to white person who acts black. Yeah, exactly. Let me see another quote. I don't want to miss all the stuff. It says, like those, yeah, exactly. The Valley Girl accents. I look at them people like they doing too much. Yeah, that's because you can tell it's forced. You can tell that stuff is forced. When I'm listening to it, I can tell you don't naturally speak that way. Even if you grow up around white people and you tend to have like a cadence that's foreign to the black community, it's just natural. You don't tend to really act that way. A lot of times you can tell when it's a forced accent, when people are doing too much with it. You know, I'm not from the South. If I was to put on a Southern accent and I was to go to the South, people from the South would be able to tell if I'm from the South or not, because my accent is not that way. Most people from the North who try to mimic a Southern accent, I'm using this as an example, they exaggerate all of the words. They be like, yeah, dog, can't believe we're over here in this today. Like, you know, we're on this Instagram live talking about this thing. Like, that's very exaggerated. And that's really not how Southern people speak. That's a stereotype of how Southern people speak. So if you go to the South, they like, yeah, you're not from here. So if I say, no, man, I really do speak this way. I have family from the South. Don't you understand? Then be like, okay, you're lying. You don't speak that way. Even if you have family from the South, you don't speak that way. So when black people tend to be like, well, what do you mean, man? I'm just pronouncing all of my words with proper English, and I can't understand why people... Do you read books, man? You must not read books, dude. Like, Okay. You didn't get that tone, that pitch, that cadence. You didn't get that from quote unquote reading books or being well spoken. You did not get that from that. You got that from you trying to mimic what white people sound like or what you perceive white people to sound like. All right. Yeah. And their voice reflects their attitude. And that's the main thing I have with that, is because more than not, people who have this, because it comes from a disconnect between that person in the black community. It really does. So more than not, when they have that, they tend to also have like follow-up type of stereotypes about the black community. And they tend to be a lot of times, not all the time, don't want to put them all in one box, but a lot of times they tend to be the token Negro in those situations. They tend to be all like, well, I really don't see color. I mean, I know I'm black. I know I am, but I don't, my best friend Bob and, you know, his friend David, you know, we're best friends. We go swimming. We play soccer all the time. I love them, man. They're my bros. Like, okay. You tend to see that because it stems from this disconnect you have with the black community. They tend to lean towards things hobbies, music, entertainment, all of these things that they feel like white people sound like, because they're trying to because if you mimic the voice, that's really not the only thing 9 times out of 10 that you're mimicking. If you mimic the voice, more than likely you're trying to mimic the voice. You're trying to mimic the taste in food. You're trying to mimic the taste in entertainment. You're trying to mimic the clothes that they wear. You're trying to mimic all of that. Said Paul Wall. Who is Paul? I'm not sure who that. Damn, do I know who that? I'm not sure if I know who that is. Maybe I do, and I might remember it right after this. It says, thank you. You can talk properly without sounding white. For example, just out of habit, I never use slang, not flexing. I'm just saying. See, that's something. And I'm sure that people don't go around being all like, you sound hurricane, you sound white. You sound white. No. Paul Wall is a white rapper. Okay. Thank you, Seven. Thank you. Hence why I didn't know him. Exactly. It's not about you not, thank you, Hurricane, for that point. Cause it's not about you not using slang. That's not what it's about. You can speak properly. You don't have to use slang or broken English or anything like that. But the thing is that it's not you sounding white. That's not why people will say you sound white. Why people will say you sound white is because you are sounding white or you are trying to sound white. That's why. Because in America, it's a very big place with a lot of different regions to it. Different regions have different accents. Chicago has an accent that's different from New York. And I see our brother Sage in here. New York has a different accent that's different from Baltimore. Baltimore has a different accent that's different from Mississippi. All of these different places have different accents to them because there's all of different regions to them. Okay. Collectively, though, the black community, you tend to understand, okay, even a black person from the South, they tend to sound a certain way. A black person from the North, they tend to sound a certain way. Even if all black people don't sound the same, it's not you don't sound black because you don't speak this particular way. We understand that the black community is not a monolith. We are from different places. We have different accents. We have different cadences or whatever. We have a lot of different subcultures, and that might need to be a whole nother subject. We have different subcultures in our culture of Black America. But we can understand when something is not even of these subcultures, even proper language. You have black politicians. You have, like I said, black lawyers, black judges, black doctors, black professors, all of these, black educators, all of these things. And you don't see them, and a lot of times you don't see them using slang. You don't see them using slang, but when you listen to them, just listening, not even seeing their face, you can still tell that they're black. You say, I'm from Chicago, but I live in San Diego, and the people out here, and they say, I sound like I'm from the South. Yeah, and a lot of times they can tell. Like I was saying, a lot of people from Chicago, a lot of like our families, like our parents or great grandparents, they came from the South. So a lot of Chicago has a lot of like like a Southern accent mixed with like a Northwestern kind of modern accent to it. So there are some words that in Chicago we're going to pronounce the same way they do in the South. Similar. I will say similar. So when you go somewhere to San Diego, they're going to be all like, okay, well, you know what? I can tell you're not from here, because they're going to think, okay, that sounds like something a way a Southern person would pronounce that. You know, it says Jason, hold on. Let me go back. It says, Jason Black, Professor Black Truth, Tariq Nasheed, and you, among the rest of new black media, speak properly. Does anyone say y'all sound white? I don't think so. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And no, you can clearly tell. We're not even looking at, you can never look at me. You can never look at me, never see a picture of me and tell I'm black. You can tell that. There's no confusion, because I'm not trying to mimic what a white person would sound like, nor does Jason, nor does Professor Black Truth, nor does Tariq or anybody. All right. That's what people mean when they say, well, you sound right. Jason, and Jason is from the deep South. And Jason says it all the time. Jason says all the time that he tries to cover his accent. He's very conscious of his accent. Tariq is from LA. He spent years in LA. Well, he's moved around a lot, but Tariq, he has certain cadences of people from LA. He'll say certain things that folks from LA will say, but they're still speaking properly. So speaking properly, to get back to your point, Hurricane, speaking properly doesn't mean speaking in a slang or speaking with a lot of Ebonics or AAVE. I don't really use AAVE, really. I don't really use it's slang or Ebonics to me, but you don't have to do that. And you can still tell, okay, well, the way you pronounce that word, it sounds like you might have been from the South. The tone of our voice is different from everyone else on the planet. That's true. That's true. And that's one of the main things you can tell from, and this is just my opinion. Black people, I don't think this is just my opinion, but black people have a certain level of bass in our voice. There's a certain level of richness in our voice. And I think years ago, I think I read something and it said that was like some type of, it was like scientific or something. I think I read that years ago where it was saying like black lungs hold more oxygen. I don't know even if I just think I did, and it was years ago. So don't cite me. Don't cite me on that. But you can tell when we speak, it's like our oxygen comes from a different place than a white person. That's why a white person has, or tends to have, a higher pitch, because a lot of times the stereotype of like the valley white person is that they'll like speak with like short breaths and they'll speak through their nose. They sound very nasally. So it raises the pitch of the sentence. Black people tend to speak more from their chest, and which gives us more air to speak, and it will come off as if it will come off deeper and richer. You can, and this is scientifically based because singers do this. There are singers who, what they call singing with their head voice, and then there's like a chest voice. People who sing from their chest and from their like stomach area, their torso area, tend to have deeper, lengthier breaths, like people who be singing opera and oh, and then there's the head voice would be like, those are the very high pitch, high note holding voices. And they'll sing and they'll be a very high and they'll be like like that versus oh like that. So it comes from where you're getting that air from a lot of times, and science does back that up. And a lot of times white people speak nasally and black people don't. And this is, even though we have different subcultures and different accents and cadences, we still tend to universally have that like black base to us, you know. So when black people speak, the way we pronounce certain words, you can kind of tell, okay, you sound like a black guy. Like, that's why when certain singers, there's music videos of certain singers you thought were black, but they turned out to be white because they sound a certain way. They're saying the words a certain way. It's not proper. It's not, oh, they're speaking in proper English. It's not that. All right. Your comment says, now, if you want to hear actual white sounding, talk to famous black conservatives. I suspect they try to mimic the white voice among the thing. Yeah, other thing. Yeah, they do. They do. They don't really try to sound black. They try because they feel like sounding black is like ghetto. They have this association with black and ghetto being the same thing. So I want to be as comfortable as possible, and that natural bass in my voice is going to make my white counterparts uneased. So I'm going to try to mimic how they sound to make white people feel very comfortable around me. A lot of times it's that. Brian says, I believe that there's a difference between articulating yourself with proper English compared to trying to present yourself in a way that black people feel would be more palatable to white society. Thank you. And that's really the thing, because the whole, you guys are judging me because I sound white. You think that I sound white, and I don't sound white. I'm just speaking the words the way they are supposed to be spoken. I don't sound white. Oh, no. Okay. Okay. And then you see them, those are the type, and I don't really got nothing against like skateboarding. Those are the type of black dudes who be sitting up there skateboarding and be like, man, that was an awesome flip, dude. Those are those type of black guys. You'd be like, you know what, man, I get there's racism and everything, but I don't really see color like that. Like, those are those type of white dudes. I mean, black dudes. Pass the ketchup, dude. Like, those are, and I ain't got nothing against ketchup, because I'm sure there's somebody in here who likes ketchup. I don't dislike ketchup. Is cool, but let's not talk about ketchup. I'm just talking about, it tends to be, when you say it's more palatable to white society, one thing follows a lot of other things. So when people say, I'm trying to speak white, it normally, most of the time, does not stop there. It doesn't stop as I'm trying to speak white, or I'm trying to pronounce my words in the way I feel white people pronounce their words. It tends to be, a lot of times, it tends to be, you say you hate ketchup. Okay. It tends to be, a lot of times, you trying to mimic white people. Oh, damn, my light just turned on. That's because my laptop died. Okay. Anyway, it tends to be you trying to mimic white people. That's what it tends to be. See? Just on your point about black sounding white singers, that reminds me of the white singer Rick James on Fire and Desire. Yeah, he was another one. A lot of people didn't know he sounded, a lot of people didn't know that. A lot of people were surprised. A lot of people were surprised. Now, are there black people, and I've been on here a little bit longer than I thought. I need to plug my laptop up. I still got some work to do. I will say, for instance, another one who speaks in a slang way, T.I., the rapper T.I. from Atlanta. The rapper T.I. has an above average vocabulary and an above average lexicon. There's a difference between a vocabulary and a lexicon. A vocabulary is pretty much the words that you know collectively and know the definitions of and know how to use it in a proper context. A lexicon are the words that you know of and that you use in your regular daily speech when you're going out and you're speaking to people, when you're going out to work, to school, your family. These are the words in your daily lexicon. Okay, and you have different lexicons. Hi, Kia, how you doing? You have different lexicons. You have like a basic lexicon in your tend to be advanced lexicon. That's why when I say there's a difference between lexicon and vocabulary, a lot of times people will say certain words, like for instance, predicament. I'm pretty sure everybody in this room knows what the word predicament means. Predicament is problem. But even though you understood what predicament means, predicament is really not in your lexicon. It's not in your basic lexicon. Problem is. So when you're expressing an issue, you would say, I have a problem. You wouldn't say, I have a predicament. You understand the word predicament. It's in your vocabulary. It's not a word that like, oh, I've never heard that word. Let me look it up. It's in your vocabulary, but it's not really in your lexicon. So that's kind of like a brief, and I don't want to get too deep into that. That's like the difference between a lexicon and a vocabulary. Key. It's key like sky. Oh. So Kaya. So Kaya. Okay, my bad. So yeah, that's the difference. So there are people, a lot of people have, especially those who've been and listened to speeches and stuff like that, they'll have a decent vocabulary, but sometimes their vocabulary doesn't match the lexicon. And that can be trained. A lot of times they go hand in hand a lot of times, but not all the time. You know, most of the time people use the shorter, more common and simpler words. And that doesn't mean that they're not articulate or that they don't speak proper English. That does not mean that. That just means it's not something in their daily basic lexicon. All right. Soulless is a word I use often. And soulless is a word you use often because that's in your lexicon. And side note, this is why when you see folks slipping up and saying the N-word, this is why we know, okay, you say it all the time because it's in your lexicon. Folks don't slip up and say things that's not a part of their lexicon. So when you're mad, you be like, nigger, like, okay, well, that's in your lexicon. That's in your lexicon. So, solace meaning peaceful. He says, so I'll say find solace in music. See, as an artist, you would probably use that often, which would incorporate that into your lexicon. And people with different crafts and different things would incorporate different things into their lexicon. Okay. You know, like a doctor might say, instead of somebody saying sick, a doctor might say ill. Okay. You know what ill means, but ill is not really in your lexicon like that. Sick is. Normal people don't be all like, I feel ill. They'll say sick. So that's kind of like the difference there. But T.I., he speaks very articulate. He has a good vocabulary. He has a good lexicon. Nobody, I've never seen anybody at all say that T.I. sounds like a white man. Never. T.I. does not sound white. You can never see a picture of T.I., never know where he's from, never know anything. You can listen to him speak for 30 minutes and be all like, yeah, he's black. He's a black dude who speaks proper English. He's a black dude who has an advanced level of the English language in comparison to the rest of society. So it's not you speaking properly. It's not your vocabulary. It's not your lexicon. You being able to understand the English language. It's not those things. It's how you are pronouncing your words. It's your cadence. It's your tone. It's the accent that you're trying to mimic. So, like I'm saying, if I was trying to mimic a Southern accent, people even who aren't from the South, if I went to New York and people don't know where I'm from, if I'm like, hey, y'all, I'm out of town. Can you show me where I can get something to eat? I'm starving. If I did all of that, they would look at me and they'd be all like, it don't sound like you're from the South. You're not from here, but it doesn't sound like you're from the South because you're doing too much. You're exaggerating it too much. You know what I'm saying? Because people from the South, that's just really how they speak. So they don't have to exaggerate it because they're not putting on an act. So when I posted that video of that girl, she was putting on an act. Though I can't believe this is going on, man. You're just jealous. Like, okay. Like, yeah. Like, okay. Black women don't sound like that. It would be there are some black women I've met who sound, I don't like black women who sound like that. That's very annoying. That Kim Kardashian high pitch, stretching out every word, that kind of like white girl valley ditzy act. Oh, that gets old very fast. That gets old very fast. It really, really does. It really does. The valley girl thing, that gets old very fast. It really does. So I just really I had something to say because a lot of people had difference of opinion in that. I feel like, and there is a conversation for it, I don't want black people to feel boxed into a certain dialect. I'm sorry, or a certain, not dialect, a certain vocabulary or a certain lexicon. And if you branch out, you're not black. I'm right now, I'm trying to improve I've always really tried to improve my vocabulary. I've always felt that I've had more advanced vocabulary than someone of my age group, in a more advanced lexicon than someone of my age group. And I'm currently in a daily process of trying to advance my lexicon and advance my vocabulary. Let me see. And I still do have an accent. Sometimes I try to cover it up, but sometimes it don't work. It depends. Somebody just requested, I just approved it. I don't know are you there? I swear I really did just approve it. Let me see. Yeah, you definitely sound like a Midwest dude. Well, I thank you. You know, it's something I really I can't help, and it's not like invited. Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. Maybe he didn't want to approve. Okay, anyway. And just because you can tell I sound like a Westerner, right, doesn't mean I sound white. I don't sound white. Okay. And I'm not trying to do that. And I feel like as black people, we need to stop using the straw man argument of speaking proper English. You say I sound white because I speak proper English. You don't. You don't speak proper English. You really don't speak proper English. And to be very honest with you, Y'all want to know something else? Most white people don't speak proper English. Yes, most white people do not speak proper English. That's a stereotype that I had to unlearn when I started to work and be around other white people. Because growing up in the black community, most black people in America are very segregated. So you grow up, you go to school, most of the people you go to school with are black. The Most of the people in your neighborhood are black. Even if you have some white people there, even if it's mixed, you're still around black people. So a lot of what you see about it says it was me, it was my oh no, it's fine, it's fine. A lot of the idea you get about how white people sound and how white people speak, you get that from entertainment. You get that from TV. And a lot of that is exaggerated. It's not very accurate. So black people have had this thing of growing up and feeling as if white people speak in such a professional and articulate manner, and white people never mispronounce any word, and we finish our sentences even with a P, even if we're saying the word. We always dot our I's and we cross our T's. We say water. We do not say water. We say water. And like, we have had that stereotype that white people sound that way, and white people really kind of don't sound that way. White people really don't speak that way. You know what I'm saying? You well-traveled people understand most white people don't sound that way. Most white people don't speak. Most white people do not have this advanced vocabulary that's the stereotype that they do. Most white people don't. They don't. Okay. Most white people don't have an advanced lexicon either. Will says it says MLK spoke proper English and no one said he sounded white. No, he did. Not only, and that's a good point, not only did MLK speak proper English, MLK also had a thick accent. He had a thick accent. MLK didn't try to hide his accent. Hey, what's good with you? How you doing, brother? MLK didn't try to hide his accent. He knew he could speak properly. Him speaking his accent didn't limit him from speaking properly. You can clearly tell MLK was from the South. You can clearly tell that. And he still was on stages, on speeches, doing interviews, leading marches, spoke more articulately than most of the white people of his time. And really of today, even. Okay. You say in corporate America, they cuss like a sailor. Yeah, they do. Most white people. Let me tell you something else. In my experience, let me get this person. In my experience, more black people actually have an advanced vocabulary than white people do. From what I've heard, and this is my personal experience, I've heard black people who their just regular lexicon is more advanced than white people. Mooch, can you hear me, brother? Oh, okay, you got out. Okay. In my personal experience, black people tend to have a more, and I'm not saying they sound like a English professor. Okay, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying they sound like they write poetry. I'm saying just regular FBA tend to have a better understanding of the English language than the average white person does. And I'm gonna get into that in a little bit. Hold on. I don't know if I don't think my Instagram is tripping because the other guy popped up, the other brother. I'm trying to hit the accept thing. Okay, let me see. I think it said you were accepted. I hope. No, I don't know. Okay, it said you were. Why does it keep saying that? Hold on. Is it not letting? I don't know. Hold on. It's not letting nobody up. Man. See if you can put it back up. I don't know. Like, and a lot of people saying that it's distorted a little. Okay, well, maybe it is my thing. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay, we got you.
I don't want my face on it though.
Okay, I got you. I think you can turn your camera off, actually. I think there's a button or something like that on the bottom of the screen to turn the camera off.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I was.
All right.
I have like a question.
Okay.
All right. Like I follow you and some other people, but there's conservative black people on there, which I can't stand, to be honest with you. But I'll be listening to like Ricky Manor and some of these guys, and he always be saying that your channel, along with Black Alpha, Phil Scott, and some of them are helping black people to support Trump, man. Which I don't like Biden or Trump, but he like a lot of the black conservatives are like praising y'all's channel because he said that y'all's leading black people to Trump. Now, when I look like at your channel and Black Alpha's channel, I don't never really ever see you guys talk about Trump. It's usually always like about Biden and some of them, which you should do that, but like I'm saying, no one's getting me to vote for neither. I'm going to the couch. But what I'm saying is these black conservatives are like praising y'all's channels, saying that you're actually with them and saying that you're helping people to, black people to sway over to Trump. So that's all I have to say.
Okay. So is your question asking me, what is your profile picture? Is that, because I couldn't tell what that was. I thought that was a cartoon at first.
No, I'm a weightlifter. I just
okay.
Probably my chest or something. Yeah, it's just my chest. 'Cause if you look at my thing, I weightlift and I box too. But that's just my chest probably, because I have like a couple of them. But yeah, that was my question.
So are you asking if we do endorse Trump or the Republicans?
Yes. Yeah.
No. Short answer, no. I haven't heard Ricky Manning say that. I haven't heard him speak on me. So
yeah, he does on his Rumble.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay. I'm gonna have to look into that because I've never heard him speak on me.
Yeah, because he speaks on you, Black Alpha, Kid Gravity, Turan Rain. Yeah, he be bragging y'all up.
Okay.
But he don't brag. He brags up that y'all's helping, our black people to move over to the Trump way. And I'm like, man, he got a lot of us mad at y'all. But, I'm not mad, but I'm just like, what the? Well, I mean, because people like him are very anti-black, man. I mean, him and Officer Tatum and that Candace Owens, they're all the same. It's just like they have an agenda to make our people look bad.
Can I ask you? Yeah, can I ask you? After you said you've seen my profile, and I'm sure if you've seen my profile, you've seen our brother Black Alpha's profile, Torians, you've seen Kid Gravities and all. Do you feel like we are endorsing the Trump or the Republicans? In your personal opinion, do you feel like that's what we're doing?
In my personal opinion, it seems like you're wanting Trump to win. You might not like him, but to me it seems like because I've heard Black Alpha say it. Oh, I'd rather Trump win like that, but I've never heard you personally say it. I've actually heard what's his name? Not Kid Gravity, but the other one, Light Revelations. Okay. Yeah, they've actually said stuff like that before, and I'm kind of like, to me that I would be more like, I don't want no one to win. Someone's got to win, of course, but I wouldn't say I want one to win over the other. That's what I'm saying. I haven't heard you personally say it, but okay.
Well, Black Alpha is not here, and I'm not sure exactly what particularly he said, but I speak to him very often, and I know he's a very staunch advocate of voting for the couch.
Right.
And he's had multiple YouTube things about voting for the couch. So somebody might have somebody might have taken a clip and maybe used that out of context.
Yes.
That's what I think going on. But Black Alpha has said on multiple occasions that he's for the couch. You know what I'm saying? He's said he's the one who made the big live stream about Donald Trump in the shoes. You know,
I haven't seen that.
Okay.
So
yeah.
now I know.
Torian.
I know
Torian's
that
always on the getting on the Republicans' bumper about stuff they be saying, and so does Kid Gravity.
Right,
So,
right.
you know what I'm saying? Black Revelations as well too. So I think that the channel that you might be listening to, I think that they might be taking little snippets of things that we say, and they use those out of context. Cause so if for instance, Alpha's like, you know, but Trump is overall better than or smarter than Biden, he'll take that and be like, "Oh, you see, he just said he wants to vote for Trump." Like, but that's not really what he said. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, and that is what he's doing. Come to think about it, that is what Ricky Manners don't see, because he was doing that with Lisa Cabria too, and then now
Lisa
all of a
Cabrera,
sudden, yeah. The last month she be putting Trump, bashing him. I mean, be putting it up, bashing him hard, and Biden too. But I'm just saying, yeah, he did that with her too, and she had made a comment about it on who was that? Queen Amidala, some one of them other channels, and she was like, yeah, Ricky Manor up there talking about we support Trump and all this and that. So now, like a month ago, so now she actually puts videos out saying bashing Trump, even using his name and picture, you know what I'm saying, like that. So yeah, because I was just wondering, man, I was like, I listen to you all the time and stuff, and I don't never hear Trump, nothing really about Trump that much. It's just always Biden this and Democrats that, and you know, just, and I'm sitting back like, Republicans is racist too, man. I mean, actually, the Trump supporters are actually worse than the Democrat supporters. You know what I'm saying? Like that, especially like where I live at. I live in Southern Ohio, man. And I'm originally from New York, but I live in Southern Ohio because of my job. And all you see here, bro, is Trump and rebel flags, Ku Klux Klan, and they're and to be honest, the Democrat people live in these areas. I mean, I'm not saying I trust them, but they ain't the ones calling me the N-word and stuff. I mean, I'm not saying they wouldn't, but they actually are the ones that act more acceptable to where, like, the Trump people actually in these little small Ohio towns, I mean, they'll call you the N-word in a minute.
Yeah.
And, you know, and some people say, well, at least at least they don't hide about it. Yeah, true. But I went to jail for fighting one of them once. Called me the N-word at the gas station. Well, so I'm just saying, I can't stand the Trump supporters.
And I get what you're saying. And our brother Hurricane is right too. I personally have a whole playlist about my videos about Trump. And to be honest, I'm thinking about making another one about DeSantis, because I bought him up in at least like 5 different videos. So I'm constantly talking about DeSantis, talking about Trump. Torian's always talking about, or he used to, because he dropped out, Ramaswamy. You know, and another person, Black Light Revelations, he talks about Ramaswamy also too. You know what I'm saying? But here's our thing. I think why a lot of people are like, y'all talk more about Biden than y'all do about Trump. The fact of the matter is, Biden is the president right now. Trump is not the president. There's really nothing Trump can do that's significant against black people the way Biden can right now. So it wouldn't really make as much sense to talk about Trump when Trump is just the former president as opposed to the current sitting president. Now that Trump is starting to, surface back up because of the re-election, and there's more stuff about Trump doing interviews and Trump doing debates and stuff like that, and then there's more Trump information starting to come up. Now that the Trump subject is getting bigger, then we can start talking about it. But a couple years, there was really nothing to say about Trump. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel you.
In comparison to Biden.
And
so it's not like we're confused about we want to say the Democrats was worse or the Republicans are worse. We have the understanding that y'all both really two wings on one bird.
Exactly.
We have the understanding that is two sides of one coin.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
they
saying?
work together. They work together behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to say too. It's like I'm in the conspiracy and stuff, so I don't think Biden and Trump hate each other. I think they're actually together. I mean, behind closed doors, they're buddies, you know. And it's just like when Trump, when he got elected, was talking about, you know, lock Hillary up, shoot Hillary. Is that right? As soon as he got elected, she and Bill Clinton was at one of his things, and he was having his crowd clap for him and said they were his friends and stuff like that. It's on video. So I'm just like, see right there, man. And see Biden, like I said, don't get me wrong, I don't like him either. And the thing with him, I don't think he's senile and dumb like they say. I think it's all a show. I think it's all a show that they put on now. Actually, Trump's acting like he's senile and they're putting all that stuff out, you know, skipping words and mumbling and stuff. I think it's all a show. I think they're doing it on purpose. Okay. Because I don't trust none of them. But that's all I wanted to say, man. So got that clear. Right. I was just letting you aware that Ricky Manor and some of these other ones, they're using y'all's names, because I listen to them too, just to see it's good to listen to see what their side got to say too sometimes. So, but I'm saying, yeah, they putting y'all's names out like y'all's helping the black people to get to Trump. And man, a lot of folks is mad. We was like, I mean, there's a lot of people listening. Y'all was like, man, Afro never speaks about, you know what I'm saying? It's always Biden. Phil Scott's definitely doing it. So Phil Scott's really tripping on it. But, you know, that's all I wanted to say, man. So,
well, you saying Phil Scott endorses Biden?
No, he loves Trump.
I mean, endorses Trump?
Y'all, he's openly on his, it's called the African, something channel. Oh my God, bro. He's literally just on the Trump train now, bro. And that's his, you know, I'll look into that. Yeah, that's his, you know, that's his right to do what he wants. But the whole thing is, though, Trump, we know Biden's racist, but I'm just saying Trump, I mean, when you vote for him, you're with racism, because, I mean, I don't care what no one says. Trump
but, okay, let me ask you this before you go. Do you feel like someone voting for Biden is less racist? Do you feel like Biden is less racist than Trump?
No. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying Trump and them are open about. They're open about it, to where Biden's people are more hid.
So do you think it's better for it to be open or hid?
See, where I live at, it's open. But I work here. I live in a hotel here because of my job. It's open. And I've been to jail for fighting over some of these rednecks over this stuff. I mean, because they'll literally come, there'll be a guy who pull up in a truck with a rebel flag and Trump. And, you know, you're in the store and they'll look at you, call you a bull, just, you know, and I'm from New York. I don't put up with that. So I went to jail for that. But then the Democrat whites here, which, you know, they're high and friendly, and they don't seem racist to me as far as like.
But here's my thing, though. Those will be the same women who will call the police on you.
Yeah. Behind closed doors,
they say you're acting suspicious, and then the police come. They hem you up. So like, if you kind of being harmed either way. One person is nice, and one person saying you a weightlifter, so you a big guy. Oh, this big scary black guy. He's been following me. I'm scared. So I mean, like, are you safe either way?
You're not. Are you safe either? You're not safe either way. And I see you're saying, yeah, you're not safe, because I don't mess with none of them as far as like really mess with anyone. But all I'm just saying is just it seems like the other crowd, I mean, heck, I had an incident happen where I was short of money. I had got some gas and I had it, you know, I pumped in $10 of gas, and I thought I had a 10 on me. I had a 1. And this woman, this is weird. This woman that had a Biden thing on her vehicle, man, she come up like, oh, here, I'll pay it for you. God bless you. And I'm sitting back like, and I'm not saying she ain't prejudiced behind closed doors, but it just seems like the town, you know, I'm in, it just seems like the white people on one side are cool and the other ones aren't. And like I said, you know, I'm not saying they wouldn't sneak behind closed doors and say something or call the cops like that, but it gets both ways. I know what you're saying. And I would rather it be out in the open. That's what you're saying. I'd rather the racism be out in the open because at least I know where they stand. I see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm glad we were able to clear that up. A lot of people are saying that Phil doesn't have those opinions, and I remember when Trump was president, and Phil was always getting on Trump's bumper about.
He was on him when he was on Trump when he was. So now Phil's doing all kind of stuff like, blacks in Atlanta were for Trump, and he's praising them, and
those are words that came out of his mouth that blacks will vote for Trump. Blacks should vote for Trump. Are you saying he's saying that?
Yes, he said that. I don't know what he said that on his videos.
Okay.
Yeah, he actually said that on his videos. But he he even put a video up of Trump like a month ago. Trump, this cartoon where Trump was making fun of Biden falling down and stuff, and I'm sitting back like, what's wrong with Phil Scott, man?
I mean, okay, so if he was making videos, let me ask you, if he was making videos dissing Trump, do you feel like he would be endorsing Biden though?
Yep.
So he can't address either one of them?
No. What I'm saying is he used to be neither one of them were any good. We don't need to, he used to be the couch. Now he's done leaned over to the Trump train. Yeah, he's leaned over. And actually it was on one of his guests, one of his people that talk on one of his shows, his name's Vicky Dillard. And she's kind of like swayed over on the Trump train. I mean, his whole cast has, man. His whole cast.
Okay. That's very interesting. I'm going to have to look into that. I don't speak for anybody except myself. When I was talking about Torian, Black Alpha, and them, that's because I actually speak to these brothers on a regular basis. I don't speak to Phil Scott like that. Or Vicky Dillard or anything like that. So I can't really speak on their behalf. I will say personally, I've never seen anything like that of them endorsing Donald Trump. I think, and I've met Vicky, I think that maybe what they're saying is taken out of context, or maybe they might joke about Biden in a way that seems as if they're favoring Trump. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that they are going to vote for Trump, and I don't think that they are endorsing him. But I'm just going to say I am unaware of the videos that you are talking about, so I'm not going to be able to rationalize them. So I'm just going to leave it there.
I watch them every day because on my job I have a sitting job, so where I can sit up and just watch. I watch YouTube all day on my job, so I watch everybody every day. And then when I get back to my motel, I don't even watch TV. I watch YouTube. So it's just, I'm pretty much watching this for 10 or 12 hours a day. So I watch them every day, all of it. And I even watched Ricky Manor and Officer Tatum. I watch some of their stuff, just like I said, just to see what they have to say. So.
Okay. All right.
But I'll let you go because I'm watching the NCAA games right now. So, but I wanted to get that in, man. And I'm glad I cleared it up because, like I said, you might want to check into this stuff, man. Because, like I said, y'all's names is being used by Ricky Barron and then to make it like y'all's getting, our black people to vote for Trump. And like I said, a lot of people are starting to see that. So,
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I'll definitely look into that. I appreciate you letting me know.
okay, man, I got to get off here later though, bro.
All right.
Have a good one.
Talk to you later.
You too.
All right, thank you. Okay. Well, that was interesting. That was interesting. I will say, like I said, I really can't speak for anybody except myself. I will say myself, I do not endorse Donald Trump. I do not endorse Joe Biden. I do not endorse any politician. I endorse policy, and the policy that I endorse is based off of my agenda, which is a black agenda. So I am only going to politically support a black agenda. That is the only thing that I'm going to politically support. These are the words coming out of my mouth, and this is what I represent, and this is my beliefs. I can't say this is the same for everybody else. Now, Black Alpha, Torian, these people that you've seen me work with, I speak to these people. These people do not, and I'm talking about private conversations, these people do not endorse the Republicans or the Democrats. And they don't endorse, I know they don't endorse Trump, and they don't endorse Joe Biden. And I'm saying that off of private conversations and public statements that they've made. Folks like Phil Scott and Vicky Dillard, I don't speak to them. Not that we have an issue. We don't have an issue, but it's not like we got each other's number and I'm all like, "Hey, Vicky, how you doing?" We're not like that. So it's not like I'm able to call Vicky and be all like, "Vicky, how do you feel about Donald Trump?" Like I can't. We don't have that relationship. I don't have any issue with Vicky. Me and her, we don't have no problems. Me and Phil Scott, we don't have no issues. There are absolutely no issues, but it's not like they're in my close circle like that, just being honest. So I'm not going to really say on behalf of, I'm representing them. I can not even really represent Alpha and Torian, but I damn sure can't represent Vicky and Phil. But I'm just saying, off my opinion, off of the videos that I have heard, I have not heard anything, and I follow them on social media too. I have not heard anything or seen anything that indicates to me that they are leaning towards that side. That is my opinion. He's saying he's seen videos of them openly endorsing Trump. I'm going to have to look into that. I don't think that you sharing a joke that Trump has made is an endorsement of him, though. So I think that can be taken out of context, Yeah, you say, and I'm saying from watching a lot of Phil videos, he clearly said he's moving as an independent. And this is the Phil that I've known even when even when Trump was president. I was about to say even when Phil was president, I haven't heard of Ricky Manor. I've heard of Ricky Manor. He's a conservative through and through. Like straight up conservative, MAGA supporter, all that. I don't watch Ricky Manor. I don't really watch stuff on Rumble unless like there's a certain clip or a certain video that I'm looking to see on Rumble, but it's not like I have like a Rumble account or anything like that to check Rumble out, so I don't. So yeah, kinda. I am gonna look into that because if he's using my clips out of context and he's using all of our clips essentially out of context, then I'm gonna have to look into that and I'm gonna have to see exactly what he's saying. But I'm glad that we were able to clear that up so he knows where I stand. He was able to kind of watch my content a little bit and he was able to do that. Yeah, and that was a say just that back to accents because that was a really big subject change. That was a super big subject change. You know what I'm saying? You say go to the middle of the country, you'll run nothing but articulate you nothing but you run into non-articulate white people. Exactly. Thank you, Hurricane. I made my stance super clear. Every single time I talk about Biden, I'm like, this is not an endorsement of Trump. And then you got this Ricky Manor dude allegedly still saying that I'm endorsing Trump. So it's ridiculous. But I'm going to look into that. But to what Sage is saying, exactly. The stereotype that white people are so articulate is not true. It's not true. It's not. White people do not have an advanced vocabulary. White people don't have an advanced lexicon or even really above average lexicon. The last dude did sound like he had a little bit of an accent, and I can kind of tell. I was looking at like his hair texture, and I'm not trying to judge, but it was looking like he was kind of might be non-FBA, but I couldn't tell all the way. So I'm just saying. But yeah, the white people don't sound all super articulate. That's not how white people sound. White people don't sound that way. That's the stereotype. Now, they have a certain cadence in a certain dialect, a certain accent, a certain way they pronounce their words, but they're not articulate. They're not super well spoken. We get that perception from viewing white people on movies, and we think when we see white people on movies, this is how the average white man and the average white woman speak. That's not true. That's not true at all. The average white man and the average white woman, first off, these are actors who read scripts all the time. So these are probably the top class of the white folk. And they got to practice their lines. They're not speaking this naturally. When they stutter, when they slip up, they got to say, cut, retry, and do it again. So even the actors make mistakes. If y'all any movie, if they have behind the scenes and you can look at the bloopers, they be stumbling their words. It happens all the time. And these are some of the best and what you would say well spoken, because they have to speak all the time for their job because they're actors. So they have to read all the time because they have to read the scripts, read their lines, and then they have to speak their lines and act the clips and all that stuff. So these are like really the top of the line of the white folks outside of really the academic class or the political class of white folk. And they don't even sound that articulate. I'm going to be honest with y'all. White politicians aren't that articulate. I'm going to say white politicians are not that articulate. White businessmen and women are not that articulate. Go to Fox News. Ain't nobody in Fox News that articulate. No, Tucker Carlson is not articulate. Donald Trump is not articulate. Joe Biden is not articulate. None of these people is articulate. None of these people are well spoken. None of them are. To be none, really. These people are not articulate. No. So the stereotype that white people are so articulate and are so well spoken and pronounce their words with such proper English, and everyone should mimic them because they are the standard of English speaking people. It's not true. It's not. It says, especially the modern women, it says Lauren Bourbon and let's go. Yeah, it is. I work in corporate America. I can say that I'm more articulate than majority of white people I've worked with. And that follows my point. Most black people are. Most black people are. Most black people, and you work in corporate America, so you're really with kind of like the top of the line, not like the super top, but you're with above average white folks. To be in corporate America, you're with the above average. You're not with the blue collar. You're not working at McDonald's or anything like that. You're with some of the well-to-do or white people, and you're a black person speaking better than the well-to-do white people, and I can almost guarantee you, you don't sound white when you do it. You're just well-spoken. Says Joe Biden sound like a robot and be pausing between every sentence. Joe Biden, man. Joe Biden be pausing. Joe Biden be saying, "Oh," Joe Biden be sounding. Joe Biden, when he speaks, Joe Biden will have this thing where it's almost like his brain does this thing and he just forgets where he was. Like he just wakes up and he's like, anyway, and just moves on. We've seen Joe, and it's not because people be like, well, Joe Biden's old. There's older black people who sound way more articulate than Joe Biden. Going back to Joe Biden in his prime, Joe Biden wasn't that articulate. He wasn't. Joe Biden was not that articulate. You got black entertainers who are more articulate than Joe Biden. And I'm not just talking about the vocabulary or even the lexicon. I'm talking about just their understanding of the English language, just their ability to express their thoughts, to convey their thoughts and opinions. You can see interviews with you can see interviews with Denzel Washington. You can see interviews with black politicians. You can see all of these interviews, and you'll see black people tend to have higher vocabulary. To be honest, in the black community, above average vocabulary is a good thing. And that's why I don't like the stereotype, because when people say black people judge me for speaking well, it gives me the sense that you must not be around black people, because black people do not have a thing against people who speak well. Black people don't. Black people don't judge other black people who quote unquote speak well, who pronounce their words in an articulate manner. Black people don't have an issue with proper English. Black people don't have an issue with other black people who don't use Ebonics. Black people don't have these issues. So when a black person gets on a platform, TikTok, or makes a video or anything, and they say these things, to me, it seems like you must not be around other black people, because black people don't have that problem. And if a black person said that, you're using the straw man argument of, oh, I just sound articulate, and that's your issue, dude. Your issue is not the fact that I sound white. Your issue is the fact that I just speak better than you ghetto blacks. No, it's not. No, it's not. In the videos where they're complaining about speaking proper English, they're not speaking proper English. In the videos where they're complaining about being articulate and well-spoken, they're not being articulate, nor are they being well-spoken. They're not. They're mimicking white people. Or not, no, let me take that back. Because they're not mimicking white people. They're mimicking what they think white people sound like. That is what they're mimicking. What the stereotype has led them to believe white people sound like. That is what they're mimicking. It says an argument can be made that Moors translated Latin and built schools in Europe to elevate the land. The Moors, U.S. blacks, invented components of language. Exactly. And that's a very good point. We black folks, and when I'm talking about black folks, I mean globally, but let's use the Moors. We've always had like an advanced understanding of not just English, of language in general. There was a lot of black translators when Europeans first started coming here. You guys didn't know. Black people are very good when it comes to the comprehension of language, because language is really just communication. That's That's what language is. It's a way to verbally communicate. That's what it is. People communicate in many different ways. Hand signals, sign language, that is a legitimate language, and you're not verbally expressing it. Language is just communication. That's just what it is. That's why sign language is a language. It's a language using your fingers, your hands, and expressions. You're not saying a word. It's still a language because it's just communication. Black people have always had an advanced understanding of communication. That's why Black people have always been able to be the spearheaders and be the trendsetters when it comes to advancing certain languages. The English we speak today is not the same English they spoke 200, 300 years ago. Certain terms that are so popular, so common today, terms like bro, sis, cool, all these things have been either invented or become popular in the lexicon of America because of Black people. Folks weren't saying cool before Black people were. Folks weren't saying that. What's up? Who do you where do you think what's up came from? You think white people came up with the what's up? You think white people came up with that? Like, let's be honest. And when we set something, things catch on. Then other people are using it. Okay? Even in more modern things, the word cap. Where do you think cap came from? Where do you think cap came from? Going back a little bit some years ago, the word low key. Where do y'all think low key came from? This is because Black people have an advanced understanding of communication and of language. So our advanced understanding of it allows us to evolve faster than everybody else. And because we evolve faster than everybody else, we're able to come up with newer things and newer things. This is why Black people tend to be very good when it comes to poetry. Some of the best poets were Black. The most well-known poets were Black. This is why Black people tend to be so good when it comes to hip hop, because we have a way of understanding how to communicate through certain rhythms and beats and stuff. What's up, Torian? Somebody just brought you up in the space today. I'm gonna have to tell you about it later. So this is like a thing that's really intrinsic in our community. So not only do we are even the slang that we use, people say it's like broken English. It's not really broken English. Because if we want to say broken English, to be honest, everyone in America today is speaking broken English. Nobody today is speaking the English that they spoke in Europe 600 years ago. Nobody is, not even Europe, not even, you go to Europe, they're not speaking that same English. The English language has evolved. It's not spoken the same way it was when it was originally formed. Neither is most languages in the world spoken the exact way it was when it was originally formed. If you study the history of languages throughout the world, a lot of different languages have different mixtures and different people immigrating to different places with different accents. So nobody's speaking that same language. So to use the term broken English, it's kind of a fallacy, because there is no broken English. There, you understand? There really is no broken English. English is just a language, and all languages evolve. All of them evolve. Let me get to some of the comments real quick. It says, hold on. I'm making up. It says, honestly, white people use broken English more than us. Exactly. Now, to show how advanced we are, because we can break the whole world down into something else. Exactly. Now, if we want to use broken English, what we can use broken English, we can use our unarticulate English. I would agree that that's broken English. People who, because there is a thing of people being poorly spoken, people using poorly worded people, speakers. That you can say that that's broken English, but to say that ebonics or slang, a certain term that we come up with, a certain phrase that we might use is broken English, I would disagree with that. It's evolving the language. But to say a person speaking in a certain way is broken English, if we want to, if somebody has to hold the title of the community speaking broken English, it would be white people. Black people don't speak broken English. Now, yeah, you could find some folks from the hood, ain't nobody got time for that. You can find those people who don't sound that well spoken, that articulate. Okay, yeah, we have them. Okay, I'm not saying we don't. We got a couple of them, but I'm talking about collectively. That's not how we sound. Okay, it says that's why white supremacists not only burn our towns, but they make sure that the black populated schools are poorly educated on purpose while using propaganda to make articulate black people bad. Exactly. That's a very good point. And if we want to go to the school thing, this is one of the reasons why they have to sabotage our school system so much. Okay. When they want to talk about, and I want you guys to know that I don't have the exact statistics, so I'm not going to say it, but I want y'all to know the dropout rate for black people, because they'll be all like, black people drop out of school so often, black people's schools are so bad, and they'll say this all the time. Most black people are not reading at their grade level. Okay, there's a lot, and unfortunately, there's evidence of that. On the other hand, most white people, most white kids, they ain't really reading at their grade level either. Oh, but they ain't gonna tell you that part. They're not gonna tell you that. They want to say, oh, black people aren't reading at their grade level. Yeah, but are white people, though? Is the average white kid reading at their grade level? Is the average white IQ so much higher? Are they passing all these math tests that black people? No, they're not. See, they'll highlight the shortcomings of black people, but they'll really suppress and sweep under the rug all of the things that make the white community look bad. So if the black illiteracy rate is at like a level 10, theirs would be at a level 8 or 9. So if there's those articulate, no, not articulate, I said the wrong one. If those, what's the word? I just forgot the word I just used. Illiteracy. If those illiteracy numbers is a 10 versus an 8, they don't have any room to speak. Yeah, there might be a couple of black people who are a little bit more illiterate, and that's because of the system of white supremacy. That's because of the school to prison pipeline. That don't exist in y'all school. So at least there's a reason why the black kids are failing, and I'm not trying to justify that, but at least we can find a reason and a source for that, and that's the system of white supremacy. They don't have that, trying to sabotage white kids in school. They don't have a system of white supremacy to sabotage little white boys and white girls in school. So what is their excuse for their illiteracy rate being so high? Because if that's the case, their illiteracy, they should be above their years. If we're gonna play that game, they should be above their years. If we're gonna do that. Yeah, you said that's why the new black media is here to expose their skeletons. Exactly. I swear we give the statistics of it, but I don't have it off the top of my head, and I don't want to be inaccurate. Let me see. It says, as someone who did teach in middle school for a year, what they do is hide the white kids who are not as smart with the majority with a majority black class, but will put one struggling black kid in pred. Yeah, white class. Yeah, okay, yeah. In a pred white class. Okay. And they'll do that because that makes the white, because in comparison, the black kid is, I'm not going to say stupid, but in comparison, the black kid is not going to be as academically, because you can be very smart, intelligent, genius in other ways. And we discussed this on YouTube not long ago. There are multiple different forms of geniuses, of intelligence. Okay. There's people who are geniuses in different ways. So you will have a black person who might not be as academically gifted, or even not as academically gifted, might not be on the same level academically as their white peers. And then you'll look at it and you'll say, okay, well, that's because that's black and that's a black thing. But then you'll try to make the white kids on their peer level of their IQ. So the white kids don't seem dumb in comparison to the black kids. They're not going to put and I don't really want to use the word dumb. They're not going to put, they're not going to put, average to below average grade level white kid in a class of above academic average black kids, because then that white kid looks very below average academically, because all of the black kids are going to look smarter than that white kid. And they wouldn't do that to that white kid, but they will do that to that black kid. And then they'll say, well, look at that black kid. That black kid is not doing well. It's not because that black kid is not in his or her grade level. It's because that black kid can't keep up with the white kids. Okay. But you wouldn't do that to the white kids. They would not put white kids in a situation where they're around above average black kids and say, well, the white kids can't keep up. Okay. And when they do, I telling you, when they say the white kids can't keep up, they will always, the small little times that they do, they will always try to make some type of excuse. It's always some type of justification. It's not because the white kid is not working hard. It's not because the white kid is lazy. It's not because the white kid's not as gifted. It's not because the white kid, is nothing wrong with the white kid. It's always going to be an excuse as to why the white kid is behind when it comes to black people. Now, with black people, though, you don't get no excuse. You don't get none. With black people, if you're behind for any reason, it's because you are not working as hard as the white people. It's because it's because you're not trying. It's because you're not studying, or it's just because you're genetically inferior to all of these white kids. That's what they will say when it's the black person who's behind. Exactly. Also, they'll weed out the black teachers who are on code while gaslighting the public and saying they can't find black teachers. Exactly. And that's another thing we need to talk about when it comes to the things about black teachers. They'll weed out the ones who really are there to care for black students. They'll weed them out. They'll like a lot of those intersectional, the ones who are pushing this liberal agenda. They'll hire a black person. The black person will be like, I'm non-binary. Oh, you're hired. They'll definitely hire you right then and there on the spot. Okay. So they know what type of agenda that they're looking to push. All right. And then the black students, the black teachers who ain't with that, they'll get hired, and then they'll get written up for every little thing. And then they'll get fired, and they'll get beaten, harassed, and damn near pushed out of the class. All right. They make sure the black teachers who don't be with that have a hard time. Yeah, and don't forget they call us lazy. Yeah, they'll call you lazy. If you're not doing well in school, If Jamal is not doing well in school, that's because Jamal is lazy. If Connor is not doing well in school, well, that might be because he's having problems at home, and maybe we need to investigate that. That's the difference. That's the game that they play, and they do it. You're right, to protect their fragile egos. Tariq held the space the other day talking to a suspected white supremacist person about this exactly. And let me say something. When Tariq has those spaces, do those white people who come up and being like, we have higher IQs, man, do those white people, do they sound articulate? Do they sound like they have high IQs? Do they sound super well spoken? Most of them don't. Most of them don't. They have a very limited vocabulary. They have a very limited lexicon. They can't convey their thoughts very well. Tariq is more articulate than all of them. Every time they come up talking about their superior genetics and IQ. And Tariq be running circles around him. Let me see. It says, I remember when I was in grammar school, I don't know if they still do this, but most of the black kids would have great grades when they didn't need to. Yeah. And most black kids want to have good grades. The stereotype of black kids are lazy, particularly in school. There are, be honest, there are lazy kids in school. There will always be lazy kids. There will always be lazy people. Are black kids in particular lazy? No. Black kids are not in particular lazy. As a matter of fact, black kids tend to be harder working students than everybody else. Black kids tend to be harder working students than everybody else. And let me segue onto this for a little bit. Okay, let me digress for a little bit. When they talk about the Asian community and all of these Asian kids, they're so very smart. They're so very smart. They're not. They're not. There's a stereotype that when Asian kids are young, they tend to focus them not even particularly on academics, but particularly math specifically. There was like a video study done on this some years ago. So due to how they grow up, a lot of the stereotype that Asians are so much smarter than black people, no, they tend to have above average when it comes to one single subject. And I wish I knew where I found it at, but in one single subject, which is math. And I'm not saying that that's not important, but that's one single subject. And black people tend to, it was something about affirmative action, and black people tend to beat them in every other subject when it comes to social studies, when it comes to science, when it comes to history, when it comes to all of these other things. So when folks want to say, well, Asians are being discriminated because of lower IQ black people. No, y'all might have passed the math test with higher numbers than black people, but then all of your other tests, black people beat you in. Black people overall have a higher average than the Asian community do. They just have this particular spike when it comes to the subject of math. So they're not smarter than black students are. If anything, you can make the argument that black students are smarter because they have a more diverse range of things that they have an average understanding in, and they can do average to above average in multiple different subjects. And instead of specializing in one subject, not saying that that's a problem or saying that that's wrong, but I'm saying you can't say because one person specializes in math and only does good in math, he's smarter than somebody who is okay in math, but is better than that person in science and in history and social studies and language arts and all of these things. You really can't make that compare. You can't say one is definitively smarter than the other one. All right. Right. So I had to talk about that for a little bit. I definitely had to address that. It says, in my school life, I only had 5 black teachers, only one in high school. Yeah, they really don't like black teachers in school. It says a lot of those white teachers can't relate to black kids. Yeah, a lot of those white teachers can't relate to black kids as like black teachers. No, they can't. No, they can't. It's a whole different. It is. It is. And that also gives these white kids advantages because most of the teachers in America are white. Not because black people don't want to teach or don't know how, it's because the system of white supremacy. So if a white kid is going to be in a classroom and a teacher is going to be white, the white kid has a higher likelihood of being able to relate and convey their issues, their predicaments, and lack of understanding of a subject to that white teacher. And there has the tendency to be that white teacher is going to pay more attention to the white student. So just having a white teacher is going to give the white student an advantage in a classroom, even in the same classroom. All right. Says back in the day, there was no such thing as public school implementing curriculums towards students with different learning styles. Nowadays, they call them neurodivergent. No, see, the school system really has changed dramatically, and that's a really good point you made. That's a really good point you made. The school system has really changed dramatically. So when you look at the results of children leaving the school system or of children currently in the school system, you can't say the end all be all reason is because the black kids are lazy. That's the reason. That's the only reason. We're not accepting anything else. Anything else is an excuse. You're just lazy. That's it. That's it. And then when the black kid, because white supremacy always takes both sides of the argument, right? And then when white supremacy, and then when a black kid does better than a white kid, they'll say that's DEI. That's DEI. You gave the black kid an advantage. So damned if you do, damned if you don't. If the black kid is underperforming, that's because the black kid is lazy. If the black kid is performing better than white kids, that's because of DEI and it's woke, and you gave the black kid an advantage. And it's unfair for the white kids. So, yeah, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't, man. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Most of my teachers were white women. And not only are they white, they tend to be white women. The teachers in America tend to be white women. Yeah. And a fancy way of saying teachers to these kids who do not understand problem is most FBA, in my limited experience, are, it's hard to kind of see the words. Let me see. He says, kinesthetics learner learn by touching, body, and doing. They teach too orally. And that's another thing too. And I'm glad you brought that point up. Different kids learn differently. I learn differently than my brothers do. I learn differently than my sisters do. So different people learn differently. And then different cultures have a tendency to learn differently. Okay? Different cultures do. Black people tend to be more of hands-on learners than white people do, or Asian. If you look at like different studies or like documentary video essays about how Asian people or these foreign people work, they're in a classroom, they're all lined up very symmetric and everything like that. And if that is, and I'm not saying anything is right or wrong with that, but I'm just pointing out the difference. That's why everything is very symmetric and kind of numeral, and it tends to be that they're really good when it comes to numbers and math and stuff like that. Black people have a more advanced understanding of certain things. Black people are more hands-on when it comes to learning. Okay. A black person, that's just our culture. So a black person will learn how to fish faster by fishing and failing and learning than just reading an instruction book. Okay. All right, what's going on, bro? How you feeling? How you feeling? Let me see. It's so damn it. FEA students is being lazy. We're literally descendant of free workers and two, what is this? Kinesthetic learners have to do or touch things to aid their understanding. Exactly. Like for instance, exactly. And you make a good point. We're not lazy. It's the inability that white people have when it comes to teaching black people. White people don't understand this as well. If I was teaching, let me say something. I'm gonna pick. Okay, hold on. Hold on. Okay. If I had, no, okay. If I was teaching a kid, okay, if orally you have two things and you take one away, how much is that? Okay. Most of them would be able to figure it out. But if I was able to show them, if I gave like a pen and a marker and I hand the kid the pen and the marker and I said, I'm going to take the pen away. How much do you have? It's easier for them to understand, oh, I only have one thing. And black students tend to learn better that way. They tend to learn better through example and touch and visualizing certain things. Other classes and other ethnic groups of people, they tend to just sit there and almost give a lecture. And when they give a lecture, they all like just remember and then regurgitate what I said in this lecture. And they don't have a deep understanding of it. Black people tend to learn not just by regurgitating information. A lot of these other groups of people, they just regurgitate the information they learn from the lecture. And I'm not saying they don't understand it, but when black people understand something, we understand on a deeper level in a way that we can evolve what we've even heard from that lecture or from that speech. And if a teacher is not able to understand that this is how black students tend to learn because this is the culture we tend to grow up in, if they're from outside the culture, they're not going to understand how do we teach these black kids that? You know what I'm saying? So just off of that, even if we say the white teacher has the best intentions, even if they had the best intentions, there's a cultural disconnect where they're not going to be able to effectively teach the black student as well as they would the white student, because that's how the white kids learn. So they're teaching how the white kid learns. They're in the white kid's element, really, and they're not in the black kid's element. If I was to say 3 minus 2, and I was to say that to preschoolers, right? It's different than if I hold three things up and then I say 3 minus 2. It's easier to remember, and that's how black people understand that. So if black people understand the formula and the concept and the structure to that, then they will have a higher likelihood of advancing. Instead of it doing 3 minus 2, now you can do 7 minus 5. Now you can do 10 minus 4. You know what I'm saying? We will learn faster at a higher rate. You won't have to baby step it once black students really, really have a firm understanding of the concept. When black students really have a firm understanding of the structure of whatever you're teaching, black people will almost be able to figure it out themselves. But we have a different style of learning it. It's not because we're lazy, and it's not because we're not trying or our brains are just not as good. It's not because of any of those things. You know, let me say. It says, I call it, I call it, take it and put it in put your own spin. I'm sorry, the words are very small. Put your own spin on it. And a lot of white teachers don't get that. No, they don't. No, they don't. A lot of white teachers lack creativity. They do. A lot of them do. Black teachers have a higher sense, from my experience, black teachers have a much better sense of connectivity and interpersonal relations with people. So they'll be able to understand why a student might not understand what they're saying, and they'll be able to find another way to convey that. Black teachers tend to do that, from my experience, much better than white teachers. So white teachers, I would say white teachers are very textbook. They'll say, well, chapter 1, page 4 says da 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 da. So they regurgitate what's in the textbook. Black people will see what's in the textbook, put their own words in their own spins, and convey it in the way that's more universally understandable and digestible to the students, and how the students need it to be said. You know, I said, I hate lectures myself. I'm the type that needs an example. Be given, or I guess by given the opportunity to mimic that example, and then I get a grasp of it and I can make something new from it. Exactly. Like, once we have that firm, fundamental understanding of this is how it works, we can kind of just like, okay, well, we can just kind of figure it out from here. The hard part's done. The hard part is done. We can kind of just add on this from here, because we already essentially got it. It says, I can learn from images and other visual things, but also doing helps me. Yeah, being hands-on. You say, let me see. You say, says, I'm always be intelligent growing up in school, but I would also struggle when people would rattle a bunch of shit off at me and expect me to grasp it without putting it into practice. Yeah. And that's what a lot of school does. They just want you to say something, and like, your brain is just going to be a recorder, and you're just going to remember the words that are said, and then you're just going to be able to regurgitate that like a robot. And black people, we're just not that way. If we don't understand, we can remember the words that are said. But that's not learning. You're remembering, but it's really not learning. You know, it's actually a different. The word remembering and learning are not the same word. Not the same thing. So a lot of students remember it, but for us to learn it, and if we don't learn it, we just tend to don't remember it. That's how human brains work. So us learning it will help us when we learn it. Oh, we're going to remember it because we're going to add on to it. You know, I'm always saying I'm not going to be here long, and I'm over here on like, what, 2 hours now. Over here about 2 hours. Let me see how many people. This has been a pretty good conversation now. I feel so far. What time is it? It's 6:15. Oh my God. That's something else. It says, y'all know how I get though. Y'all know how I get. I start getting one subject. It kind of leads to another subject, which leads to another subject, which leads to another subject, and we just be going on and on and on and on. But this has been a really good conversation now. It says, I've been making speeches on how school is a scam, and one of the issues with it is that it doesn't appeal to the best way that different kids can learn, and at some point it impacts blacks, as you said. Exactly. School is is too textbook. Yeah, I'm probably, yeah. Originally I wasn't, when I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna talk on this one thing, but I probably am gonna put this on YouTube actually, because this was a really good conversation. They say school is too textbook. School is too. It doesn't, because, like I said, different kids learn different ways. Different kids learn different ways, you know. And a good teacher is going to be able to determine, okay, this is how this student learns, and then this is how this student learns. Now, an American school system is actually very bad when it comes to the public school system. I mean, it's very bad because the structure of it in most schools are very bad. That's why even white kids have an issue with public schools. All right. Just the structure of it is bad. There's too many students in one class. The teacher has to follow a certain curriculum, so the teacher can't really step outside the box. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times the teachers don't care that much, to be honest. It's a lot of issues. And then on top of that, that's not even accounting for the layer of racism that's in the school. So you can imagine this is just the average student. Then imagine being a black student on top of all of that. Imagine that. So it's really messed up in a lot of different ways. I said, you think each student needs an individual plan? That is what you know what? I agree with that. Each Hurricane said each student needs an individual plan. Let me say this. I am gonna have to get off here soon. I didn't expect to be on this long, to be honest. Growing up, I was always, at least to me, I was okay. I was good at math. I was always good at understanding the structure of a math equation. I was able to learn addition quickly, subtraction quickly, division quickly, multiplication quickly, fractions quickly. It was a very easy, simple concept. My issue is that I would learn it, and then it just, for whatever reason, wouldn't stick with me. So when I came back to it, it was almost as if I was starting from scratch every single time. So, for instance, if I was doing long division, I would be all like, okay, well, this happens, and then you have to drop this, and then you have to add, and then you have to put that together. Like, oh, that's very simple. And then I'd leave and come back and be like, damn, how do you do this again? Like, it was almost like I had to start from scratch every single time. And it wasn't because I had an issue understanding it. It's just that retaining the information, I had that problem. So I had to really work on not my lack of understanding it. I had to really work on remembering what I had learned. You know what I'm saying? So when I was able to do that, I was able to get a lot better. Now, I, as a student, might have that one issue, and then another student might have another issue of they remember everything, like they have photographic memory, but they just have a difficulty understanding the concept of the equation. So you might need to give them several different examples of division for them to really understand that's how division works. But when they get it one time, they got it now, even though it took them a little bit longer to understand the concept. Oh, but they got it now. You know what I'm saying? So different students tend to work and learn in different ways or have different issues. And a good teacher will be able to decipher, like, okay, well, I can already tell that he picks up fast. He just needs memory practices, or whatever the case. He just needs something so he can constantly remember, so it can really get ingrained in his head. Oh, he remembers very well, but he struggles a little bit with the concept. So I just need to give him several different examples, maybe even more simple examples, so he can really understand the structure of the equation. A good teacher is able to tell where students' strengths are and where students' weaknesses are, and then be able to adapt and make a plan that best fits that particular student. You know, it says repetition. It says repetition, or else it gets rusty, and it is rusty, and that's understandable. The brain lets go of information that you're not using. Exactly. You're right. You're absolutely right. That's why most people, I'm gonna be honest, most people who graduate high school, they took an algebra test. If you ask the average American anything about algebra, they would not be able to tell you, except the fact that A is a variable for an unknown number. And some might forget that. Most people don't use algebra. Most people, the math that most people use, first of all, most people use calculators, but the math that most people use on a regular basis is addition and subtraction. On a regular basis, you use addition and subtraction. That's it. Then it's some you might use multiplication and division. Besides addition, subtraction, those are the most common two. Multiplication and division, those are somewhat used, but not as common. Most people don't use any other form of math unless your job requires you to do that, unless your profession requires you to do that. Most people, on your average every day, you don't need to know anything about scales or scaling in geometry. You don't need that in your average every day, so you lose it. You might have been really good at high school, but you lose it. There's a lot of people who learn languages in high school. If they don't speak them 10 years from now, they're not going to be able to be fluent in that language. They might know the word or two or a sentence or two. So, and I think that that's a big problem when it comes to math, is because, and that might be a whole nother conversation. When it comes to math, a lot of the math that is taught in schools is really math that's not used in modern society. That math, when do you use algebra? When do you, in school, they will teach you algebra. Don't worry about it because you'll never have to use it. Then why are you teaching it to me? What am I being graded for? I can't graduate high school because I don't know algebra, but you are literally telling me I will never use algebra. What are you doing that for? Why? It's a waste of time and a waste of resources. Like, it's so much to it. Teaching, there's so much to math that instead of making people masters of the most common forms of math equations, you're trying to give them this broad understanding of different math equations that they will more than likely never use. I don't use algebra. I don't remember I haven't used algebra in like maybe a decade. And now I'm longer than, man, I can't remember the last time I used some algebra or geometry. Folks don't use, that's not useful information in society. And they knew that when they was putting it in the curriculum for whatever reason. Me and you need to do a live on school one day. You know what? Yeah, we do. We're going to have to schedule that because there's a lot I have to say about the school system. It's a whole lot I have to say about that. So we definitely going to have to be in touch about that. Because there's a lot I have to say about that. But I think that is such a damn waste of time. And that's just math. That's just math. What time is it? Okay, it's about to be 6:30. I started this around a little after 4. I did not know I was going to be on this long. I'm going to wrap this. It's my time is 6:25. I'm going to wrap this up about 6:30. So I'm going to be on for another 5 minutes. Yep, teaching things that we won't really use. Yeah, man, and let go of trades. Now that's the crazy part. That's the crazy part. In school, they used to have trades. They took the trades out the school and they put stuff in the school that you're not going to use. So instead of school teaching, because back in the day, you didn't need college. You were able to leave high school. If you got your high school diploma, you were able to leave high school and pretty much live out on society. You were able to do that. High school was it was very optional, and it was like advanced education or whatever, but you did not need that. You didn't need that. But they took the basic stuff because you were able to learn basic stuff about, mechanics, plumbing, there were certain trades, there were cooking trades, all of this stuff in school. Nowadays, they don't teach you really anything that's going to prepare you for adult life in high school. Not really. With high school, they'll tell you, hey, with high school, now you need to go to college. College didn't used to be a necessity. It was an option if you had a certain career path in mind. Now it's damn near a necessity, or at least they frame it as being a necessity, because high school is not going to get you anywhere. You're going to be working a minimum wage job with high school because you don't have any skills leaving high school, and that's a big problem. And then college, to be honest, college is increasingly becoming less helpful. So you got problems on both ends. Both of these options, the quality of these options is deteriorating. Both of them. You're not getting exactly. You're not getting a job with a diploma. Back in the day, that's all you really needed. A high school diploma. Yeah, I got a high school diploma, so I'm not a dropout, essentially. And that's all you need. A high school diploma don't mean damn near nothing unless you got other things to follow that up with. So that's real bad. But that, and in school too, they used to have they used to have different trades. My dad took a trade when it comes. I think, what was the name of the trade? I think they called it something different, like wood shop. I think it was called wood shop, where in school they would teach you how to like build certain things with wood and with different tools and stuff like that. So you'd be in class building like bird houses or something like that. You'd be in class with saws, knowing how to operate power tools and things like that. You definitely, and they used to teach you that in school. They used to, but they don't do that anymore. Now you're learning a bunch of things that they're literally telling wood shop. That's what it was called. Wood shop. Yep. Wood shop class. My dad took that. My dad has this thing. He was able to carve his name, his last name, our last name, out of wood. That was a assignment in school where everybody would carve their last name out of wood, and he carved it. And I asked him about it one time when I was a kid. I was like, where'd you get that from? He said he made it. So he was, and they used to teach him that stuff. They don't have that stuff nowadays. Nowadays, they don't have that stuff. Yep. And you said degrees aren't weighed heavily anymore. Also, yeah, they're really not. They're really not. A lot of these college degrees don't really matter unless you're going to be a doctor, or maybe a lawyer. And depending on what type of lawyer you're gonna be, your college degree might do you more harm than good in a lot of cases, to be honest. Overall, he says, "Hey, brother Afro Elite, when you and Coolers do a live stream, don't mind titled America Fool System. Hey, I wouldn't mind, and that might be good because the whole quality of the American school system is really deteriorating." Okay, and to circle that back to our original topic about talking white and sounding white, when we say black people speak more articulate, and they like to cite certain statistics like, well, the illiteracy rate is higher in the black community than it is in the white community. I say barely, if that is even true, because I would argue, I don't really have the data to argue, but I would argue that that's probably not true. But if it is, it's barely. If the black students are doing math at a below grade level, white students are doing math slightly better. Not that much better, if that is true at all, to be very honest. So hold on, what time is it? I said okay, I did say what I say, 6:30, so it is 6:30. I'm gonna put this on YouTube, y'all. Yeah, I'm gonna need to go put this on YouTube. We're definitely gonna have to call this. We're definitely gonna have to set that up so we can get on that, because that's an important subject. That's definitely, because getting on this segued us to another really good subject, but that's an important subject. But yeah, let me get off here, y'all. Y'all can be expecting this on YouTube. I'm not sure when. I don't really want to say a date and then be wrong with it. But let me get off here. Y'all have a good evening. Y'all take care of yourselves. And I will I will talk to y'all later.